I've generated over $500,000 for myself and clients using webinars, and over the next few minutes I'm breaking down the most famous webinar funnels, all doing over $1 million a month, so that you can see which ones fit your offer and start building it today. Now, before I get into each one, I want to make something super clear. All of these people are at above 7 figures per month, but none of them use the same exact funnel. Some run them quarterly, some run them weekly, some charge for entry. It's all different funnels, and that's what I'm gonna be breaking down in this video, because the important part is that by the end of this, you'll have exactly a step-by-step plan on what to do to implement this for yourself. Let's just get into it. You've seen the proof, it's right here. So the first funnel that I want to break down is one of the most famous funnels, if not the most famous funnel, and that's Iman Gadzhi, which is doing over $5 million every single month, and he runs quarterly events. We all know what shadow operating is. He's pretty much selling on that opportunity. In terms of the traffic that he's getting, he has 4 main YouTube channels. We all know his main channel with millions of views and millions of followers. That's where he kind of targets people trying to make their first 10K per month. He uses the angle, the best model to start in 2026 is shadow operating, which is what he sells. In fact, that model has actually been around for so long now, he just gave it a different name, but obviously since it looks new, just like freelance brand scaling, it sells a lot. Then he has his vlog or unscripted channel where you're able to see more of his life. There, you know, he kind of uses that for likability, or I believe he pushes a little bit more his e-com or other brands. Then he has the clipping channel where he pretty much just takes clips of his long form content talking about specific problems, targeting the ICP, which I believe is a little bit more sophisticated. And then he has his business channel, which is, in my opinion, the best one, obviously because it adapts for myself more. That's my ICP, because he's trying to target a way more sophisticated audience, which means coaches already in info trying to scale the level where he's at. And obviously that's where he pushes his quantum masterminds and kind of the consulting.com offer. Apart from YouTube, this is the organic content strategy feeding the webinar. Every single video on YouTube where he's pushing the, obviously during the promo time of the webinar, has one CTA, which is go register for that event. As I said, he uses a really broad top of funnel angle, which is the best business model to make 10K per month in 2026. As I said, he's using this top of funnel angle a lot, which is the best online model to hit 10K per month in 2026. He's been doing this for years now. He just changes the business model to whatever works at the moment. It's kind of indoctrination videos, building conviction on the mechanism. Then we have the short form reels, pretty much clipped from the YouTube channels, and the CTAs there is like comment a specific keyword with ManyChat to get the full YouTube video, which obviously then drives to the registration. And another super smart thing that he does is he schedules the YouTube live 2 weeks in advance, so that it shows up on the audience's homepage every day as a constant reminder, or just letting them know, hey, I'm running this event on this date, and obviously it shows up every single day. In terms of the strategy, he runs something super smart, and that's something that all of the big guys doing over $1 million a month are doing, like Codie Sanchez, like Qbanks, and all the biggest people. I'm also implementing it just now for all of my clients, and we've been able to rip from 0 to 50K a month from paid with webinars alone. Now, Iman, I pretty much tracked every single one of his heads that he ran. He had over 500 ad creatives per event. If you literally just run up 10 hooks per 5 bodies per 2 different CTAs, like from that alone, you can easily get at least 100 variations minimum. So obviously Iman has a huge content team. It's a completely different game, but you know, if you follow this structure, you can pretty much get a solid amount of variation if you're spending solid money on your webinar event. The strategy is called the Forrester strategy, which is literally top of funnel content going into bottom of funnel retargeting. It's one of the simplest strategies, but it's the best strategy to run in 2026 and something that all the big people are doing. As I said, 70% of the ad spend is gonna go on top of funnel engagement content with literally no CTA. It's literally pure indoctrination videos about the business model itself. And what he does there is he targets a really cold audience with a really broad style of content that kind of lets the algorithm find the right people. Then what he does is he retargets everyone who watched 50 to 75% of those top of funnel videos to an event registration push kind of ad, okay? And these people are gonna be already highly qualified and they're gonna have double the chance of converting because they are also visit the YouTube channel, right? If you watch someone's cold ad and that ad kind of makes you curious about who he is and you watch most of that video, then you're obviously gonna get into the long form content as well until you're retargeted for that main event. And this strategy is just so good and it has been working so well. So then what he does is he spends 30% on bottom of funnel registration conversion, as I said, right? After someone registers, he kind of does this strategy called the hammer them strategy. Jeremy Haynes created this and he's been pushing now for a while. I implemented this for webinar clients, for a normal call funnel clients after someone books a call, which is pretty much like 30 to 50 more retargeting ads, indoctrinating the registrants even more, or kind of handling objections or shifting beliefs, covering stuff that would prevent them from showing up to the webinar, like them not thinking Iman is legit or not thinking that event can work for them. You know, it's kind of how that works. So what he does then is he sends VIP retargeting ads shown specifically to people who registered. Obviously, it's just an incentive, kind of an upsell that helps to liquidate ad spend. But after the webinar ends, he sends retargeting to everyone who watched it, but he didn't buy. He obviously sends them to the replay with like the, oh, I'm gonna take this replay down in 48 hours kind of urgency so that you watch it as soon as possible. And most of the people apply after the webinar directly. If you ran webinars in the past, you know that I would say 60 to 70% of the revenue is made directly on the webinar itself, but still a good 35 to 40% is made on the post-webinar process, which is crucial, and that's what I'll get into later. But if you're not running kind of replay, especially if you run webinars with not a huge cadence, like once a month or like quarterly, I would say that not running up a webinar, a replay is costing you so much money and you're leaving out so much money on the table because you cannot retarget that way. You cannot retarget all the no-shows. You cannot retarget all the people that didn't apply, all the people that didn't stay until the pitch. You know, it's just kind of free money. Now, obviously, he split tested different landing pages to find winners and double down on what worked. You always want to have different headlines and different pages for organic and paid cold leads because obviously they're at two different awareness levels. That's what we do for every single one of our clients. Actually, for our trading clients, which we ran up a webinar 1 week ago, we noticed that our conversion rate on the page was super low. So what we did is we obviously split it, the organic and the paid headlines. We made the pages way simpler because I believe they were a little bit overcomplicated than what they needed to be. They were nothing fancy or crazy, but you need to make them as simple as possible. You gotta think of it, okay, I'm selling to monkeys. Like there's gonna be no friction that can get them from where they were, which, you know, normal people that didn't register to registered. And just making that change, split testing different headlines allowed us to find out what was working and double down on it. And we were able to go from a really low conversion rate to more than the industry standard, okay? And that's what you want to do as well. If you're not split testing different pages, I'm telling you, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. As I said, Iman has a really simple landing page. It still looks premium for like the higher perceived value. You can easily make something like this with Claude. It won't take long, but you know, simple skills, fancy fails, having a super complicated landing page will not make you more money. Sure, it might look better, but the pages that make the most amounts of money on webinars, even on the webinar slides itself, they're the simplest ones, okay? As you can see, really simple, headline with a clear outcome, clear get my free ticket button. Then he had a section with an agenda with outcome driven bullet points. Now he was running a challenge event funnel, so multiple days, but they were directly tied to the ICP's exact concerns and questions. When you go ahead and start planning out your webinar and you're like, oh well, what should I teach? Like, you shouldn't think about that yourself. You should go to Claude, put in the latest 20 sales calls that you've taken or your team has taken. You kind of get the feedback from the sales team. You look online what your market and the market that you're targeting is saying, and you make the webinar pillars directly from there. Okay, what we do for our clients obviously is we have our first pillar, which is shifting a common belief they have or overcoming an obstacle that they're facing. Then we introduce our unique mechanism, obviously still tied to maybe objections or whatever they could be thinking wrongly and that could prevent them from buying. And then the third pillar is usually common misbelief or like something that they've been struggling with, or bottom line of this is it's tied to your ICP's needs. You may have the best messaging, but let's say that you're like kind of targeting UGC creators who are trying to make their first 10 to 20k a month. Well, if you go ahead and in the pillars you put overcomplicated stuff or stuff that doesn't really resonate or help them get there, they just won't buy. And having congruent messaging in your webinars is one of the most important things that you could do, and that is going to make you the most amounts of money. Then he pretty much had a cost of not registering section, really simple. And then incentives and bonuses to show up and stick until the end and apply to your level. Obviously, Iman is giving out a McLaren, Rolexes, Masterminds, Rimowas, but you don't even have to do it at that level. You can literally just give out a freebie like a lead magnet, which if you play it right, I noticed that people implementing freebies, most of them don't really know how to do it, and that's why it's usually useless and that doesn't make you more money. But I'm telling you, if you take our freebie structure and what we implement for our clients, it not only gives people more value before the webinar and educates them more on the unique mechanism, but it also sells them a lot on showing up to the actual webinar. Now, another really big thing that I wanna talk about is having a stupid simple registration to have the highest conversion rate. Obviously, Iman is not using Webinar Jam, he directly does them on YouTube, but you never wanna have the Webinar Jam form. And this is crucial because Webinar Jam's form is overcomplicated. It just takes a couple more seconds to load up, and that ends up losing you a lot of leads, especially if you're on cold traffic. You're not gonna have as problems on organic traffic, but on cold, you're gonna have so many problems with this. And that's why you need to switch from a Webinar Jam form to kind of creating and vibe coding your own form, and it needs to be as easy as possible, as you can see here. Then once they register, they get the VIP upsell page immediately after the registration. I don't know the exact price that he was doing, but you could price this wherever between 27 and 47 bucks. You could even try to do 97, but it would be a little bit more too high, especially if you're not doing multiple paid kind of events, and adapted to your level. I believe that he was giving out like a dinner with him or something, or like the chance to have a dinner with him, but adapted to your level, you can literally just run VIP inner circle calls before the main free webinar. You just jump on 1 hour 30 minutes early, you answer their questions, you just drop a lot of value, and that's gonna make the cost worth it. And obviously you don't want to do this to like kind of make more money on the back end, but it's literally just to liquidate the ad spend on the front end before the webinar even starts, so that you have more capital and more budget, and the chance of breaking even or losing money is even less. Okay, then Iman would send people to a WhatsApp or a Telegram group, which is required to join after the registration. If you're giving them a freebie just for registering, you always want to put the freebie in this group right here. As I said, there you're gonna give calendar reminders, warm-ups, student wins. You wanna send pretty much daily messages hyping people up, and event reminders. I'm telling you, that group alone will be 80%, I would say, responsible for your show rate, apart from SMSs directly, just because having an indoctrination, I call this kind of the brainwashing method, but not having a group will affect a lot your show rate. So make sure that you always have either a Telegram or a WhatsApp group. I don't really recommend Facebook unless you have millions of followers, but doing WhatsApp is usually fine. If it's in the US, you can probably do Telegram as well, but let's just continue. And then you have the email sequences, which are 2-3 emails per day leading up to the event. You could even do 1 to 2. 1 is fine, 1 per day, especially if you have a little bit longer period of promotion time. But what you're doing there is you're educating on the mechanism, you're handling objections, you're shifting their limiting beliefs, you're hyping up the audience, kind of just making sure that there are as little reasons as possible to not show up. If you want our framework, just DM me on Instagram, link is in the bio. But then you also want to have SMS blasts, and these are super important. If you're running webinars on GHL, especially sending SMSs through GHL, make sure that you hop on with their support and get your limit rate up. It's really easy. It won't take long, and this can be the difference between a 40% show rate on cold traffic and a 15% show rate on cold traffic. Okay, SMSs are super important, and you want to send one once registered, saying like, I noticed you register, can I send you free exclusive emails? Then they're gonna reply 24 hours before the morning of, where you want to ask, hey man, today's the day, what are you looking to get out of the class? Then you want to send the 3 hours before the live now and the 10 minutes into the webinar, saying like, it's not too late, you can still join, we're just getting into the value part. And as I said, make sure that you get a response on the messages. Iman also has a really good lead scoring system. So I don't know how he does it, if it has a type form to apply or whatever he does, but what you can do is, obviously when someone applies for your program, you want to have a type form capturing their age, their income, their savings, their job status, and their experience in whatever they're in, like trading, if you're doing a trading offer, in whatever kind of you're selling. And then you want to rank leads for seller's priority, and the highest quality leads get personalized SMSs campaigns, and there are like kind of specific actions for each ranking levels. Because if you know that there's someone who has a really high budget, you can do SMSs saying we're doing free coaching calls, kind of using that hook angle, because they have the money, so they could even end up buying on that coaching call with your closer. But obviously that's something that you can only do when you're sure and when you know that the lead has the right income to do so. But it's gonna save your seller a lot of time. You wanna train them a lot and have really solid SOPs on the tight ranking system. So if they're a certain age, they have a certain income, they have a certain job status, they are B lead or they are an A lead. So that's kind of how it works. For the event day structure, he was running a challenge type of event, not a 2-hour webinars. He was doing this multiple webinars on different days. That's really good, especially since he was running them on a quarterly basis. On day 1, he kind of was giving a broad, high-level overview of the entire unique mechanism without a pitch. Then day 2, a deep dive on step 1 and pitch on that step with bonuses and early mover incentive. Then, just read this yourself. I'm not gonna go through all of this by myself. Day 3, days 4 and 5, and then the final day. Now, the key here is that every single day of the challenge funnel has its own scarcity and not just like kind of the end of event urgency. And also you need to be able to create curiosity loops at the end of every single day, right? Just like how you do it for each pillar that you're teaching, you want to do this for different days if you're spreading out your webinars throughout 3 days maybe, okay? Let's say that on a 2-hour webinar, so on a normal webinar session, you can do, well, we just covered pillar 1. Now, you can only do as much with it. You also have to get Y, which is going to be pillar 2, which obviously is super good. You always want to aim for at least an 80% engage rate on your webinar. And if you know how to create curiosity loops, how to shift their beliefs, and how to give a proper value section, you'll easily get there. Not everyone can do it, but if you have the right frameworks, it's super easy. Now, in terms of the post webinar, I don't know if Iman had it directly, but the dialer would call up the leads within 20 minutes of the webinar ending so that they would get the speed to lead advantage, and the emotional certainty is at the highest immediately after the webinar. That's also something you want to wrap up for yourself. As soon as someone kind of finishes watching the webinar, your dialer wants to call them up immediately right there and then, because that's when their emotional state and buying state is gonna be at the highest. Then, as I said, it runs up the replay campaign, the SMS blast, the replay gets uploaded to YouTube, the retargeting ads get sent to everyone that attended, the VIP buyers get exclusive bonus calls with the team, and he would send exclusive resources in WhatsApp or the Telegram group. Okay, so that's also something that you want to do as well, because after the webinar ends, maybe 2 to 3 days after, you still want to send some nurturing messages on WhatsApp to obviously push the mentorship and push the exclusive bonuses. And a way to not lose people and to not make them leave as soon as the webinar is over is to give like specific AI prompts. Or let's say that you have a trading offer, you can send which pairs the strategy works on so that they do not leave, right? You want to do this. Let's say that you run the webinar at 6 p.m. by 8 p.m. you're done. The next morning, you're gonna be sending those messages on the Telegram group. Clearly, you need to understand that there's so much more that goes into this. And I'm talking about the stuff that nobody talks about, either because they don't have the knowledge or because they prefer to keep it at a surface level, or it may be simply because they don't have the data to back it up, like the content feeding, the proper conversion page mechanism, the right emails that you need to send, the right SMSs that you need to send, the post-webinar process dialed in, the sales team kind of flow and everything. And I've built pretty much this same exact system for multiple coaches across trading, e-com, real estate, fitness offer. So if you're doing 10 to 30K a month and you want me or my team to build this out with you, just go to the first link in the description, apply and book a call directly with myself. Now, let's just continue with the video. I don't want to bore you too much. The second webinar funnel that we're gonna be breaking down is Shelby Sapp. She cash collected over $5 million in January 2026 alone. She runs weekly webinars and I believe auto webinars as well. In terms of the traffic, she has her personal Instagram, which is the main top of funnel content. She doesn't go as middle of funnel or as bottom of funnel there. She's mainly focused on getting views and reach. That's what she can do at the level of her brand. She has the She Sells Academy Instagram, which is the programs page. It's like more salesy. She kind of posts testimonials there. It's like for people that already know what she's selling. And then she has the TikTok, which I don't really recommend, but you can have it anyways. She's just posting the same content as Instagram. The YouTube there, I believe is a part that they're lacking a little bit, and that's not the main source. But at the same time, she can compensate with the weekly webinars, which are already hours long events that nurture people enough, so she doesn't need it as much as someone that's running a normal call funnel. And then she has the paid ads side of things that kind of keeps everything consistent and allows her to compound every webinar and scale. She has over 90 ads running. It's a mix of retargeting and cold, and most of the CTAs point to the webinar, but she also has a lot of kind of follow me ads, right? Now, the content strategy, she's posting 4 types on her personal Instagram, so not on the She Sells account. She's posting kind of the viral formats where she kind of flexes the lifestyle, and it's not only about sales, but it obviously stops the scroll and kind of gets people engaged with who she is. Now, I wouldn't recommend this for anyone unless you are at her level of personal branding. That only works for her and big people like Iman, TJR, and the biggest people. If you try it yourself, the lifestyle content won't work and will only attract broke people. Then she has the authenticity content like quick in her life, showing stress and real emotions, and she kind of tries to make relatable, raw human connections content. One of her pinned reels is kind of like the My Story one, and that's definitely in this bracket right here. Then she has the lifestyle content where she shows off their cars, the Pilates, the private flights. What she does there is intentional, so she's not just flexing, don't get it wrong. She's building the dream state that her ICP aspires to, and she reinforces that in every piece of her content. And then she also makes value content, dropping basic high ticket sales value, because she's not targeting big sophisticated market. She really just goes goes for the beginners trying to get into the model, so she doesn't drop the craziest value. You can easily get away with that value as well. That's not overcomplicated. And one thing I want to talk about is how every piece of content reinforces one specific identity, which is her ICP. And that's like, oh, power women who want the Porsche, Pilates, macho lifestyle. I feel crazy for saying this, but every piece of content, whether she's directly calling it out or she's showing it or she talks like that, she shows that she's one of them, it like reinforces that state. And anyone that's not like that, that doesn't aspire to be like that, even if they're qualified, she just doesn't bring them inside her funnel. If you're a girl that doesn't like that lifestyle, that likes a more raw, simple, more like you like to go out in the woods, play a lot of men's sport, if you know what I mean, she's not gonna be attracting you. You can go to other high-ticket salespeople. In terms of the ad strategy, it's not overcomplicated. I don't believe she's running the Forrester strategy, even though she could, but she's literally just running retargeting and follower ads. On the call ads, she's pretty much, it's like educational demonstrations, ICP callouts, testimonials, and why high ticket sales is the best business model, and then she CTAs to the class as well. For these static ads, you know, it's just like high perceived value with the CTA to the class with a big caption saying, oh, I'm Shelby Sapp, I've done this, and that, I have X amount of people, I'm running up a free event. For the landing page, I noticed that there's no split between cold or organic, and that's something huge. I'm sure she tested them, maybe it wasn't just the right fit or she didn't notice a huge improvement, but she doesn't have a cold or organic split test. It's a really simple page. It always goes back to this, you know, she's not overcomplicated anything. As you can see here, there's the countdown to the next live webinar, really clear outcome. She has the, you're gonna learn all of this. If you literally notice, it's pretty much the same as Iman's structure. She's literally just adapting it to her ICP, like with the hearts, the pink, then she has the ICP call out and the disqualifier. So this is for you, this is not for you. If you're looking for a get rich quick scheme, you know, she calls out the ICP and she removes any bad lead. Then the personal story, building authority and mirroring the ICP old status to create an emotional state when they're reading this, and then a final CTA at the bottom. Now, what I believe is missing here is case studies. She could throw in a couple of case studies, but that's something she can afford as well to not have them because she already has the authority of being the biggest in the space, so she doesn't need it as much maybe as you or other competitors. She has also an extremely simple form to remove as much friction as possible, because let me tell you, like, having a really simple form that's not overcomplicated, where you make it yourself and you don't take webinar gems, one is gonna be the difference between 0.8 conversion rate or 20% conversion rate, let me tell you, okay? For the confirmation page, it's nothing complicated or nothing fancy. It's literally just a short video from Shelby congratulating them and setting the frame. She has to bring a pen, paper, and open the laptop. Obviously, that means that she makes sure that they're focused and they take this seriously. She pretty much maximizes engagement and retention during the webinar. She explains what's gonna happen next and why they cannot miss the webinar. She tells them, like, check your email, make sure you're reading them. She has the calendar ad button, so you can easily do this with GPT. You can literally just ask him, like, make me this link. When people click on it, they're gonna be sent to a reminder for my class. It's really stupid simple, and that's something that everyone should be doing. There's no case study section, and as I was saying, no upsell. I don't know if she ever tried to do an upsell. I don't think so, but maybe she has and it just didn't work as well for her. But for the email nurturing sequence, she has confirmation emails sent immediately after the registration. The value and social proof emails, morning of reminders, were live and 1 hour into the webinar, right before the pitch session starts. This is the webinar structure. If you want, you can literally just take this by yourself and kind of follow the same structure. It's not a bad structure at all. Could be a little bit better, but I believe that's just what works for her ICP. You cannot just copy a full webinar without adapting it to who you're selling to. For the post-webinar system, it looks pretty much like the same. This is after someone books a call, so the triage call, the offer stack, the group chat. But I've already been through this in so many videos. She has a no-show sequence where she gets back in all the leads that booked the call but didn't show up, and if they didn't close, they're not just gonna leave them hanging. They're still gonna follow up in 1 week and nurture emails and all that stuff. For the last webinar funnel that I wanna break down is Codie Sanchez. She's doing over $3 million a month. She does both paid entry events and free events. Now she has huge like traffic channels like her main Instagram, the Twitter, the YouTube, the paid ads. YouTube is definitely the traffic driver. In terms of content strategy, 95% of the content that she posts is a challenge videos and proven outlier content. The challenge video format, if you're able to do it, like a dropshipping store or a speed running from 0 to 10k trading, like whatever it could be, it pretty much shows the entire process of doing the thing, reveals the result on camera, and it just shows how much your unique mechanism works. And they obviously tend to do so well. Like look at these 2.1 million views. She has a proven obviously outlier strategy. That's what you should be running on YouTube as well, just finding videos from other channels that did better than average, and you want to recreate it for yourself. 10% I would say of her content is experimental, so she's just testing out new concepts that were never done before, which obviously they're like either a hit or a miss. If it's a hit though, it's gonna be blowing up like crazy. Everyone's gonna be copying it, like the famous VSL that she has, the one that Iman copied as well. I don't know if Iman copied it from her or Iman was the first creator, but still they both did super well with it. And then you have the top of funnel kind of content, which are like broad money tips pulling in really big reach, just like this video right here. And then she has middle of funnel content covering specific problem videos like LLCs and all that stuff. If you don't know who Codie Sanchez is and you live under a rock, she teaches people to kind of buy small businesses, like make them grow and make a lot of money from them. She's still running up the Forester strategy. I'm not gonna go over it again, but that just proves how powerful it is. If her, Iman, and many other people are making millions of dollars every single month thanks to this one strategy. It's also really simple. It's not complicated, so you can run this up by yourself. For the landing page, they pretty much all have the same structure. So like a headline and an outcome driven benefit copy. The subheader kind of removes the objections or the friction that they could have in their mind. In their opt-in form though, which is something I haven't seen from anyone, she's asking some qualifying questions. It could be for pixel reasons, so that like if someone is not qualified, it doesn't send that back to the pixel as successful, so that the pixel only optimizes for qualified leads. Or it could be simply for lead scoring. But you know, she asked for like the income, the purchase timeline, how much capital we have saved up and all this stuff, which is really good. She has an heavy Trustpilot social proof, not Typeform. Trustpilot sending to social proof. There's no confirmation video on the thank you page, but on the thank you page she has the add to calendar button and how to get most of the training kind of instructions. And she's like, check your email, check out these videos. And the right framing on telling someone to do something in info should be this, because if you just tell them go check out this email or go check out this page, they're not gonna do it anyways. So you always want to frame it as to why it's gonna be a benefit for them. As an example, when someone books a call, you just don't want to send them to a thank you page. The setter, when they're calling them up, he should be, well, check out this page because it's gonna tell you whether it's just gonna be wasting your time or this can actually help you out. Or you could even do like, so that on the call we skip over all the superficial stuff and we directly get into the value, because I know that the first part is boring if you don't check out the page. So you always want to give them a reason, which is why this is the right framing and something that you should implement as well. Now, as you can see, they all have similar structures, but they all have points where they're weak, where they could be doing better, or where they're really strong. Okay, now the one principle underneath all of these webinars is that the webinar does the selling right before the sales call happens. A webinar is just like a huge sales call. The closers on the sales call with the lead after a webinar are just gonna go over logistics and payments. The webinar leads are gonna be the easiest leads that you'll ever sell, just because they're so nurtured and their buying intent is so high. If you have a low close rate on webinar leads, you're doing something wrong, whether you're getting unqualified people or your webinar is not good at all. But that's gonna be really complicated complicated. Which model should you be running? If you have an offer which is under $2,000, you can do direct payment link on webinar. Do not be scared. If your offer is over anything than that, you want to do Typeform application on a webinar to a sales call close by traffic source. If you're running paid ads, you always want to have 2 landing pages and you can run them up weekly if you have a solid budget. But if you're doing organic only, you want to start with monthly live webinars, build the volume, and then you can also layer in a paid automated one. If you're doing both, you can do the paid ones weekly, and throughout the month you can do, let's say, 3 weekly and then 1 both paid and organic. At your current revenue data at 10 to 30k a month, the webinars are going to help you break the ceiling and allow you to scale to multiple 100k months. And honestly, it's the best and easiest funnel to get to your goals. If your close rate is low, as I was saying, you won't need to pre-sell the problem. The webinar is not doing enough selling before the call. And if your show rate is low on the webinar, you have a nurture problem. So WhatsApp, Telegram, email sequence is not tight enough. Another big thing that I wanted to cover was tracking data, because most people running webinars have no idea why the revenue is inconsistent and they're operating literally on guessing, which is what gets them stuck for months straight on end. If you're running ads, these are the same exact metrics that you should be tracking. Lead generation, so CPL, cost per lead, cost per registration. Industry standard is 5 to 15 for warm retargeting audiences, 15 to $30 for cold traffic. Depends on who you're targeting, because if you're targeting people who have $50,000 of capital available and you're selling a big real estate offer, obviously you're gonna have a higher cost, but at the same time your average deal size is gonna be higher. So you don't wanna stress over this so much if you know that you're getting solid leads, or if your leads are good overall, because if having a higher CPL means that you're gonna get better leads and you're gonna make higher amounts of money on the average deal size, well, you should be 100% fine with that. And then you have the cost per show, so what you're paying per person who actually shows up live to the webinar. The industry standard is 30 to 80 for cold traffic. Under $30 is ideal. Now, if you want to read as well how to fix this, there you go. Then you have the show rate, which is the percentage of registrants who actually show up live. Industry standard is 25 to 40% of for cold traffic. 40 is really, really good if you're running cold. Anything below 40 for warm is bad. So 40 to 60% for warm organic traffic webinars, and 50 to 70% plus for paid entry webinars, because obviously people are paying to show up. So it's really rare unless they have a big emergency that they cannot show up. Then you have the cost per application. So what you're paying every single applicant in the Typeform after the webinar. Industry standard is 150 to 400 for cold traffic. Under 200 would be ideal. Above 400 means the webinar page wasn't good enough. Then you have the application to call rate, the percentage of people who submitted an application that actually booked a call. You should usually have this everywhere between 50 to 80%. 50 is not the best. You should always aim for at least 60, but usually 60 to 80% should convert to calls. If you're below 50, the Calendly or booking steps have a lot of friction, or leads weren't qualified enough. Then you have the cost per call. You should aim for a 300 to 600 for cold traffic. 600 is like high. I wouldn't recommend it at all. But again, if you have higher quality leads, having a $600 cost per booked call is good. If it means that each call you're gonna close 10, 15k deals. 100, 400 bucks is healthy for a over 5k offer. Then you want to check the show rate on calls. On webinars, this is gonna be higher anyways, because as I said, they're gonna be the easiest leads. The intent is there. Another thing you can do to kind of have a higher close rate and a higher show rate is you want to fish forward every lead that booked that is high intent and where they have budget. How do you figure that out? 1, the form. 2, how do you fish them forward to a closer date if they booked a little bit further away from the actual date that you ran the webinar? Simple, your dialer on the triage call wants to call them up and offer an earlier call. Then another thing that I wanted to run you through was the scorecard. A lot of people are running blind on this because they don't know which metrics to track, or they don't know what they should be optimizing. So they just end up fixing different things that maybe aren't even the bottleneck, or they change what's already working. The reason that we've been able to scale so fast with our clients and that we've not been stagnant is all thanks to this one scorecard, which is literally one simple document that tells us exactly every single day. Let me see if you can see it now. I don't want this to be huge. As you can see here, we're pretty much tracking a lot of metrics, and we track this every single day before hopping on our management call. And as you know, we pretty much score every kind of deal. Wait, let me show you. Yeah, There you go. We kind of score every KPI on green, light green, yellow, light red, and red, so that on our management call every single day we fill this in and we know exactly what we need to attack for the day. As an example, if your conversion rate is low but you're not checking it and you don't have the scorecard, you're never gonna fix the conversion rate just because you don't know that's a problem. If you want the scorecard, obviously just DM me on Instagram, I'll send it to you. But pretty much there you have the entire A to Z system to now go ahead and implement this for yourself. It's stupid easy. Now you've seen the most famous webinar funnels doing over $1 million a month, but there's still a part that most people watching this are gonna miss, which is knowing what Iman, Shelby, and Codie do is not the same as knowing what you need to do right now, because every one of those funnels is optimized for a specific audience size, specific offer price point, a specific stage of growth. I say that a lot throughout the video, but copying the wrong one doesn't just waste you time, it also like slows you down a lot. So the only way to actually build a funnel that factors in your specific situation is to have someone who's done it dozens of times and has the proof. Right? That's what we do at Infonomics. We pretty much can tell you exactly which model fits your situation, if you should be running paid, if you should be running organic, if you should charge for entry, for VIP sessions. You know, we don't just kind of leave you in the dark. We actually build the entire system with you. So if you're a coach between 10 and 30K a month, or you're a creator with an audience and you're looking for a way to monetize and you want to implement a webinar funnel just like this one, then click the first link in the description, apply and book a call directly with me. If you qualify, we're gonna be mapping out exactly which model fits your offer and your audience size and how scaling to 100K per month looks like for yourself. We're gonna be building out the plan. And if you're not at the stage yet, you still don't want to book a call, or you're not qualified enough, then the first video linked in the description breaks down how we took one of our trading clients from 2K a month inconsistently with a low ticket funnel to over 96K months using the same exact system that I just broke down in this video. Check that out. Make sure it's gonna be super valuable. I'll see you there. Appreciate you so much for checking out the video and see you in the next one.